Donald Trump just got hit with some devastating back-to-back legal news regarding the Georgia election fraud case. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, so you may not recall all of Donald Trump's legal drama because it seems to be an ongoing thing. Every other day, something new and devastating for Donald Trump. But this is one of the big ones. Back in August, Donald Trump and about 18 others were indicted in Fulton County, Georgia by Fani Willis, the district attorney, for attempting to defraud Georgia voters and steal the 2020 election from President Biden. And two of the major co-defendants, attorneys who worked with Trump and tried to scheme with him to steal that election, have now pled guilty and are cooperating with the district attorney, cooperating with the prosecutors, increasing the likelihood that they've flipped on Donald Trump. I'm, of course, referring to Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesebro. And the news about these two basically came back to back. One was today, Friday, Kenneth Chesebro, and the day before, Thursday, Sidney Powell was announced. So we're going to go in reverse order. This is Kenneth Chesebro, a clip of him pleading guilty in a Georgia court.
The court.
I do.
Do you understand that the court is not bound by that recommendation and could sentence you to the maximum penalty for the charges?
I do.
Do you understand that the recommendation in this particular case as to count 15, conspiracy to commit filing false documents, is 5 years to be served on probation, a $5,000 fine, and that I believe you're asking the court to treat you as a first offender, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry, $5,000 restitution. You understand that?
Yes.
And do you understand also special conditions of the probation is that you complete 100 hours of community service?
Yes.
And that you write an apology letter to the citizens of the state of Georgia?
Which I have, yes.
Yes. And that you truthfully testify at all hearings and trials involving co-defendants in this matter, that you have no communication with co-defendants, witnesses, or the media until all cases have been resolved against all co-defendants.
Yes.
And do you understand that you must give a full recorded proffer with the state, that you continue to also provide documents and evidence subject to any lawful privileges asserted in good faith?
Yes.
To the court.
So again, that's Kenneth Chesebro pleading guilty. And again, I'm not an attorney, but the New York Times, thank God, breaks it down for us. So Kenneth Chesebro was accused of conspiring to create slates of fake electors to support Donald Trump in Georgia and several states won by President Biden. His lawyers had argued he was merely offering legal counsel to his clients. I'm offering legal counsel on how to defraud the state of Georgia and by extension the rest of the country. You know, no big deal. So it's actually not the commission of a crime. Prosecutors contend that attempts to seat the pro-Trump electors were part of an illegal scheme to keep Trump in power and that Mr. Chesebro's cooperation is considered valuable in the effort to prove their case. So he pled guilty to a single felony charge of conspiracy and was sentenced to 5 years probation. As was mentioned in the clip, he was originally charged with 7 felonies, including one under the state racketeering law. So that was Kenneth Chesebro. Okay, the day before, we have Sidney Powell, who was the more infamous of these two attorneys. She was the public figure making all kinds of deranged statements. She was basically as crazy in her own way as Rudy Giuliani or Mike Lindell. She was like at that level. She was Mike Lindell with a law degree, I think it'd be a good way to say it, and a wig. So this is her, a recording of her at the bottom here, pleading guilty as well, the day before Kenneth Chesebro.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the right to have the charges against you proven beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after trial?
Yes.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything in order to enter into this guilty plea?
Other than what is recited in the documents, no.
How do you plead to 5 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with the performance of election duties and 1 count of conspiracy to commit criminal trespass?
Let's let me approach for a second.
We changed, there's the trespass count was changed, so it's all 6 counts. It's 6 counts of the first.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you. I apologize. How do you plead to the 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with the performance of election duties?
Guilty.
There you have it. She pled guilty. Now, hers are a bit more robust, okay? So As part of her guilty plea, Sidney Powell is admitting her role in a January 2021 breach of election systems in Coffee County, Georgia. With the help of local Republican officials, a group of Trump supporters accessed and copied information from the county's election systems in hopes of somehow proving that the election was rigged against Trump. She pled guilty Thursday to 6 misdemeanors, 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties, a significant reduction, okay? They're recommending, instead of 5 years probation for Kenneth Chesebro, they're recommending 6 years for her. She'll be required, likewise, to testify truthfully at future trials, write an apology letter, just like Chesebro, to the citizens of Georgia, since she attempted to defraud them, and pay nearly $9,000 in restitutions and turn over other documents. Now, again, they point out that after the 2020 election, she had peddled conspiracy theories about purported fraud and false claims about millions of votes being flipped in a global scheme that involved Venezuela and other foreign powers. She admitted to taking actions after the 2020 election, admitted this, for the purpose of willfully tampering with electronic ballot markers and tabulating machines with the intention of taking and appropriating information, data, and software, the property of Dominion Voting Systems, who, by the way, are suing her as well. She admitted to hiring data forensics firms and sending their employees to Fulton County, Georgia, so they could unlawfully access government computers with the purpose of examining personal voter data with knowledge that such examination was without authority. Folks, this is devastating, right? So this further undermines the credibility of the big lie. It probably won't with respect to MAGA cultists because it's an unfalsifiable claim as far as they're concerned. It's conspiracy theory, so no matter what, this is probably part of a deep state cover-up in their mind. It doesn't matter, even though, again, they were co-defendants and they worked actively for Trump and they wanted him to win the election. They were clearly willing to try to help him steal it. So this is probably going to change that many minds over in the MAGA camp. But it's devastating. It really is. And for those of us who know MAGA cultists, it's further devastating. There hasn't been confirmation of this, but the back-to-back guilty pleas, right? I mean, obviously, that's a win for Fani Willis, the district attorney. And again, potentially devastating news for Trump because now they're going to be required to testify against him if they have sufficient testimony. If they have testimony worth offering, they're now obligated by the terms of their guilty plea to testify against Donald Trump. And given their proximity to him and how close they were and how intimately they were involved in the whole thing, it's definitely not good news. So bad news for Trump legally, as I've said before, is great news for democracy. And I imagine that we're going to see further developments in this vein as we get closer to the trial.